Calma, mãe, eu tô bem.
Eu tô com cara.
Não fica assim. Ela vai passar.
Tu vai querer ter um filho?
Não, nunca quis.
Agradece. Ela vai sofrer que nem a gente. Num outro mundo!
When a toxic gas suddenly envelops the world, two strangers have no choice but to live together. However, things take a dark turn when one of them craves to go outside. One morning after spending a night of intimacy, Giovanna and Yagu wake up from the sound of the siren. Following that comes the announcer's voice, ordering all the residents to immediately close their windows and doors. The announcer adds that those outside must seek refuge inside the nearest building around them. Confused, the two rush inside their room to find answers. Once inside, they watch the news and learn that a toxic gas, also known as the pink cloud, envelops the whole world. After inhaling it, the subject will meet their demise within 10 seconds. Therefore, the government mandates civilians to stay in the safety of their homes. Now that they've witnessed how dangerous their situation is, the two quickly close the apartment's windows in compliance with the safety protocols. Then, they contact their loved ones, informing them of their whereabouts. Just after their call, the two observe how the pink clouds slowly take over their neighborhood. Curious, Yagu asks Giovanna what she thinks the gas is, but she tells him she doesn't know. Instead, she expresses her curiosity about why it doesn't seep through the gaps. Suddenly, her phone rings, interrupting their conversation. Upon taking the call, Giovanna's worried mother checks on her, so she supplies her with the information. While she's busy on the phone, Yagu simply watches over her. Shortly after, Giovanna video calls her sister Julia to check on her. When Giovanna learns she's doing alright, she asks if she can talk to Deborah's father, as Julia is staying with them for a sleepover. However, Julia refuses her request since Deborah's father is busy talking to Bruna's mother on the phone to assure her of her kid's well-being. Because of this, Giovanna asks Julia if she feels nervous about the sudden crisis, but she answers no. For her, it's just a fog, and she confidently feels that it'll get away soon. With her answer, Giovanna simply reminds her to let Deborah's father contact her later. Once their call ends, Giovanna contacts her friend Sarah. The two talk about the emergence of the pink clouds, and Sarah can't wait for it to leave, especially since she is currently alone. A few hours later, Yagu performs chiropathy on Giovanna while they discuss the absence of the death rate caused by the clouds. From Yagu's perspective, he thinks that the news outlets won't report it to avoid causing panic to the public. Still, Giovanna is concerned, especially for the welfare of the less fortunate. Despite her sound opinions, Yagu isn't interested in continuing the conversation and wants her to focus on their current activity. Later that evening, Giovanna video calls Julia, and they talk about her problem with food. Since Deborah's father rations all of the food, she has to endure her hunger. Due to that, she can't stop herself from crying. Julia asks Giovanna if the clouds will leave soon, and she assures her they will. To further cheer her up, Giovanna promises her that they will go camping together once it's over. True to her assumption, Julia's mood lightens up, but it doesn't last long. A loud argument echoes in Julia's background, causing the girl to end their conversation quickly. A few days later, Giovanna and Yagu grab their food and medicine supplies through the tube the government has installed in every house. Immediately, the two prepare their meal and discuss their unusual relationship. Giovanna opines they're like an Indian couple, leading Yagu to question the comparison. For her, they're like a traditional Indian couple who don't know each other until the day of their marriage. They only start liking each other after they've lived together. Amused, Yagu teases her that it's very easy to like him, earning a laugh from her. After some time, Giovanna celebrates Yagu's birthday by preparing him a sponge cake. When she lights the candle, Yagu requests her not to sing him a birthday song. She complies but urges him to make a birthday wish instead. Though hesitant, Yagu obliges, but he takes time to think what he should wish for. As a result, Giovanna softly chastises him about this, and he relents. In seconds, Yagu thinks of his wish and immediately blows out the candle. With a smile, Giovanna hopes that his wish will work, but Yagu just nods. Upset is evident on his face. Therefore, Giovanna tries to lighten up his mood by assuring him that the clouds will eventually disappear. Regardless of her encouragement, Yagu begins to feel hopeless about their situation. To support her claims, Giovanna reveals that upon watching the news, she learns that the crisis will probably end by winter and it's just a manifestation of climate change. Yagu nods as a sign of his acknowledgement, but it doesn't mask the persistence of his negative emotions. During the night, Yagu video calls his father Hua to check on him, but his home health nurse, Diego, does the honor of disclosing their current situation. Diego reveals that Huey's medicines are running out, so they opt to contact the company that can deliver them. The downside is that they have to pay double to receive it. Because of this, Yagu asks for his account number so that he can wire some money for medication and food. Diego acknowledges this, but he doesn't let Yagu off the hook. He requests that Yagu wire his salary as well. With a sigh, Yagu accepts his request and asks him the amount he'll send to his account. Once the negotiation's done, Yagu ends the call, Since his responsibilities are piling up, Yagu can't contain his frustration and confides to Giovanna about how a chiropractor like him can make money if he can't touch people. Upon hearing that, Giovanna offers to help him financially, leaving him speechless. The following day, the two have a conversation about having children together, especially since they've become more intimate lately. However, their perspectives clash as Yag wants to have them, whereas Giovanna doesn't. Defensively, she argues that she feels like she'll be tied down with responsibilities she's not ready for once she bears children. Yagu calms the friend Giovanna and opines that if the clouds don't leave, their current situation will be perfect to ease her worries. Finding it ridiculous, Giovanna chastises him for his selfishness. For her, being confined inside a four-cornered room is awful, and a child doesn't deserve to be raised in such an environment. Still, Yagu believes a child can be happy, and Giovanna's fondness for her freedom hinders her from wanting them. Giovanna doesn't deny that she loves her freedom, but since Yagu makes her feel shallow, she curses him and leaves. Shortly after their fight, Yagu once again opens up the topic of having kids. This time, he opines that maybe she doesn't want them because she's pessimistic about the future. Giovanna finds his accusation funny, so she sets things straight with him. Frankly, she tells him that once the clouds finally leave, he can have children with someone who deserves him. But as long as the clouds are still present, Giovanna encourages him to live their lives peacefully and in the best way possible. Realizing her point, Yagu simply agrees. For the next few days, the two try to adapt to the new life the clouds have provided them. Yagu learns a new skill, whereas Giovanna keeps herself fit by working out. Then, they don't forget to have fun and share a few drinks to pass the time. One day, while Giovanna reads a book, she notices something outside, so she quickly gets up to grab binoculars. Upon using it, she sees a writing on a window across from her apartment that says "The cloud will not kill me." This unsettles her, but she is not prepared to witness how her neighbor gets out of the window and jumps to his death. Due to this, Giovanna cries to let out the disturbance she has felt from it. Months have passed, and the relationship between Giovanna and Yagu grows even deeper. As a result, Giovanna bears a child. During Giovanna's due, she experiences a painful contraction. Therefore, Yagu prepares a birth pool for her. Thankfully, through a video call, a doctor explains what Yagu has to do in order for him to aid Giovanna's delivery. After a few pushes, she successfully gives birth to a child they named Lino. After a few years, Lino starts growing, and despite being confined inside their house, Giovanna and Yagu shower him with love. One night, while Yagu is busy putting away their groceries, Giovanna approaches and shows him a viral video wherein a physical altercation manifests after a man has stolen some goods. However, Yagu doesn't believe it and even calls the video a fake. Bewildered, Giovanna questions her partner's words. So, Yagu explains that people online must have made it look 3D. Still confused with Yagu's answers, Giovanna clarifies that the video is a footage from a security camera, and there are other videos of it online that are taken using different gadgets. Hence, Giovanna insists it's real. Instead of believing her, Yagu accuses her of enjoying watching such dark and negative videos, which earns him her disbelief. Yagu expresses his confusion about why Giovanna is concerned about things she can't change. This annoys Giovanna as she only wants to show him what's currently happening in the world, so she calls him alienated. Regardless of what Giovanna has said, Yagu remains unaffected and advises her to be more relaxed. The following day, Giovanna bathes Lino, but while doing so, she playfully tells her son that she wants Yagu to disappear. But after saying such words, she tells Lino she's not a mean person, which the kid mimics. However, her growing hatred towards Yagu starts to show when they're having dinner. As Yagu makes small talk, she gives him a snide remark, spoiling the mood. Because of this, he confronts her for her unusual behavior for the past few days. Instead of giving him a sound answer, Giovanna suddenly asks him how many moles she has on her belly, to which he answers she has 2. Since he is confused by her question, Yagu asks for clarification. But Giovanna begins to tell him that she knows the number of the moles he has on his back, even the number of his graying hair. Yagu expresses his confusion to her, but again, she doesn't enlighten him. This time, she admits to him that their relationship is not normal, and she's tired of it. Therefore, to bring excitement to their relationship, the two perform a role-play wherein they create a scenario of strangers meeting for the first time. Though the first set of the role-play works, the second one doesn't since Yagu messes up, mistakenly mixing reality with fiction. As a result, Giovanna ends their activity alongside their relationship. With her sudden decision, Yagu refuses, especially since they have a child together. No matter what he says, Giovanna's made up her mind, so she immediately informs him of their new arrangement. They have to sleep in different rooms, take turns taking care of Lino, and even create a schedule on who will use the kitchen. Giovanna suggests all of these so they don't bump into each other. After a few days, the two begin co-parenting their son. During Yaga's turn, he's gentle and patient with Lino. On the other hand, Giovanna is a little strict towards Lino, especially when he's picky with his food. One night while Giovanna reads a book, she hears Yagu having an intimate call with another woman, disturbing her peace. Fed up, she gets up and unplugs their Wi-Fi router. Now that his phone's interrupted, Yagu requests Giovanna to plug their Wi-Fi back. but he doesn't receive any response from her. Due to that, he just proceeds to get dressed, but a phone call catches his attention. He sees that the caller is Hue, so he immediately answers it. However, his father doesn't bother to greet him. Instead, he informs Yagu that Jago has passed away. Confused, Yagu asks if he's the one who ended Jago's life, especially since Hue told him before that he wanted to harm his nurse. Hue denies Yagu's assumption and tells him he never said such a thing. But Yagu doesn't believe him, especially since his dementia hinders his life. Despite this, Yagu moves on and asks how Jago has met his demise. According to Hue, he found Jago lying down on the kitchen floor lifeless. When he doesn't provide more information, Yagu ends the call. With everything that's happened, Yagu solemnly prays in his room. Meanwhile, Giovanna video calls Sarah to check on her, especially since she's been living alone for years. Sarah expresses that she's still miserable even if she's consulted a therapist and ordered a robotic dog as company. She craves physical human interaction and questions why the government hasn't found a solution for the toxic gas. Even though Giovanna has no answers to her questions, she can only offer her friend her virtual company. On a rainy night, Giovanna plays with Lino when lightning and thunder cause an electric interruption. This makes Lino cry, alerting Yagu. Therefore, the man visits Giovanna's room to comfort his son. Since this is an unexpected reunion for the ex-couple, an air of awkwardness envelops the room. Left with no choice, Yagu starts the conversation by inviting Giovanna to return to their room upstairs. However, she refuses, but he doesn't take any offense to it. Through this reunion, the two realize they still love one another, so they rekindle their romance. The next day, their whole family shares breakfast in their living room, wherein they talk about having a vacation once the electricity returns. In the middle of their conversation, Lino asks his father if he likes the pink clouds. Hesitantly, Yagu confirms, earning a disapproving look from Giovanna. Uninterested in their topic, Giovanna moves on and plays a game with the two. Later that day, the electricity returns, making Lino celebrate with joy. Meanwhile, Giovanna prepares their meal while she video calls her sister, and they talk about Julia's cooking skills. Suddenly, Julia asks her what remedies can treat a nauseous person. Giovanna asks her if she's the one who needs it, but Julia denies it. Instead, she admits that two of her friends have been experiencing nausea since they're pregnant. Giovanna stops in her tracks and asks who fathered their child, so Julia reveals that Deborah's father did. Now, Giovanna becomes frantic and further interrogates her about how their situation came to that point. Julia clarifies that their friends consented to the act, but this doesn't reassure Giovanna. Because of this, Giovanna warns her not to get close to Deborah's father and to stay inside her room. Julia contains her own temper and stops her from being paranoid. In her defense, she's just looking out for her, especially since Julia is too young to bear a child. Furthermore, she strongly believes that Deborah's father must be jailed. When Giovanna continuously expresses her worry, Julia remains unamused, so she ends the call. With a sudden revelation, Giovanna wants to vent this issue with someone, but when she contacts Sarah, she doesn't answer the call, leaving Giovanna alone with her thoughts. 5 years later, Giovanna wakes up from a dream, making her emotional. Upon hearing her sobs, Yagu wakes up and comforts her. Giovanna shares that she thought they could finally go outside, only to realize it was a dream. As Yagu continuously comforts her, their conversation is interrupted by Lino's knock. It turns out that the boy has prepared a cake for his mother's birthday, and he sings her a birthday song. After that, Lino urges his mother to blow her candles, and she complies. Once done, Lino gives her a gift that he and Yagu have prepared. Upon opening the box, she's surprised yet happy to see a VR headset, so Giovanna expresses her gratitude to the two. Shortly after, Yagu video calls his father, but Hui's condition worsens, making him forget who his son is. Though hurt, Yagu pretends to be Hui's doctor so that he can check on him. Hui tells him that he feels his gut is hurting, so Yagu urges him to take medication. However, Hui's forgetfulness manifests again, chastising Yagu that he's not sick and doesn't need medication. Afterward, Hui abruptly ends the call, further hurting him. Due to that, Yagu can't contain the hurt he's feeling, so he lets himself cry. Meanwhile, Giovanna uses her VR helmet to immerse herself in nature and finally get a taste of the outside world. Suddenly, she bumps into her window, returning her to the sad reality. During the night, the couple wakes up from Lino's call, urging them to look at the clouds outside, making them wonder what it means. Hence, they watch the news wherein they learn that it's speculated to be harmless, but some say it's an omen that humanity is ending. Nevertheless, Giovanna is optimistic that it's a sign that they can finally go outside. Therefore, she packs her clothes and video calls Julia, hoping to hang out on a beach. On the other hand, Yagu doesn't want to be complacent, and he prays that nothing bad will happen. Moments later, Giovanna looks out the window and sees that the green clouds have turned white, making her ecstatic. However, her smile changes to tears when the white clouds return to pink. After a few days, Giovanna becomes obsessed with her VR helmet, prioritizing it more than spending time with her family. Because of her lousy behavior, Yagu calls her out, especially since she no longer eats with them. Giovanna blames them for giving her the VR, but Yagu tells her only to use it occasionally. This leads to them arguing, especially about Lino's welfare. Giovanna is paranoid about her son's future, afraid that he'll be alone once they pass away. Contrary to this, Yagu opines that Lino can have a girlfriend online and won't suffer as much as them since he's used to a confined environment. Giovanna doesn't let him off the hook yet, and they begin fighting about the future, wherein they'll pass away and Lino has to take care of their bodies. When Yagu remains calm about it, Giovanna questions him about what his father did to Yagu's body before. This time, Yagu becomes silent, so she presses him more for an answer. He admits that he stopped calling his father since Huey no longer recognizes him. Confused, Giovanna questions Yagu's character and mocks him for being too laid back before. This further leads to them arguing, and Yagu can't contain his anger so he curses at her. He chastises Giovanna for her words, telling her she has no right to reprimand him when she spends most of her time with her VR helmet. With that, he orders her to return to her VR life. Though stunned, Giovanna complies and returns to her makeshift beach. As she sits on the inflatable swimming ring, she accidentally knocks over a small bucket of water, soaking Lino's laptop. Immediately, Giovanna tries to wipe away the water, but Lino whines about the damage she's done. Upon hearing this, Yagu checks on them, but Giovanna lies that everything's fine. However, Lino tells Yagu the truth, annoying Giovanna. Needing to relax, she proceeds to use her VR helmet. Lino is tired of seeing his mother become detached from reality, so he removes her helmet. Then, he climbs a cabinet and drops it on the floor. As the helmet breaks into pieces, Lino tells Giovanna she can now live in reality with them. This drives Giovanna mad, causing her to laugh, frightening Lino. Since she continuously laughs, the boy tries to stop her. Despite his efforts, Giovanna slowly gets eaten by her insanity. She lashes out at him and blatantly insults him for his naivety. Before things turn bad, Yagu drags her outside and locks her inside a room for her to calm down. A few days later, Giovanna starts to involve herself with her family again, but her mental health worsens as she further craves the outside world. One time, Yagu asks her how she's been since she lost her VR helmet, and she simply answers that she's okay, though she really isn't. Once alone, she is unable to contain the misery, so Giovanna makes up her mind. She ascends the stairs and kisses Yagu and Lino's heads. Afterward, she goes out onto the balcony and inhales the toxic gas. Quickly, she begins a countdown, and upon reaching the 10-second mark, everything fades to dark. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.